We're live. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Dialogues That Matter, a series by Dialogue Space, where we speak to a bunch of change makers who are doing the work that deserves some kind of attention and conversation, which is what we believe at Dialogues, and which is why today we have with us a very special guest, Nagraj Prabhu from Akshara Foundation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Allow me to introduce Nagraj Prabhu for those of you who don't know him. Mr. Nagraj has over 2 decades of experience in the entrepreneurship field, as well as having to drive social impact and software product management, project management, and consulting. He's passionate about enabling social impact. He's currently working towards bringing grassroots level changes in effective rural education, which is what we hope we would like to talk to him about. And he has a special focus on evangelizing mathematics learning, which is also a very interesting choice. And we'd love to know a little bit about that. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I would allow you to introduce Akshara Foundation and talk to us a little bit about what Akshara Foundation does and what education means to you as an individual.
Sure. So thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. See, Akshara Foundation has had an incredible journey of over 2 decades now, right? And we have dabbled into many areas, right? Started with urban poor, teaching children in the slum area,
Right.
doing classroom library. Then there was a program on Kannada language, which actually was accepted by the state as an Oduve Nanu program,
Right.
by the state education department. Early childhood education, we have actually taken a lot of initiative there for school readiness program, which is actually preparing a child to get into grade 1 who do not have the luxury of doing LKG, UKG, and all this pre-nursery and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
English language, how do you impart English language to children of grade 1 to 3? All these we did, but I think our sweet spot was actually mathematics.
Right.
And finally, this Ganita Kalika Andolana, a movement for foundational numeracy, that became our mantra or a flagship program sort of a thing.
Right.
And we have been on it, I think, in the last 7 to 10 years now. So,
Right.
and that's keeping us really busy.
Right.
So,
I think the project is going to be a focus of our conversation, but of course at a later point.
sure.
Before that, if I could get your personal opinion on what do you think education is,
Yeah.
and what are the fundamentals of education, right?
Yeah. So I think we all know, education is nothing but a facilitation of how children learn or anybody learns, right?
Right.
And acquiring the knowledge per se.
Right.
Of course, then you can say that, I'm going to, impart skills and values and habits and all those things.
Right.
But, clearly what I think is missing now in education is that, we are in a rat race, right? And it is more of, if you look at education, it is, even children or teachers, they all are talking about, did I complete the syllabus, right?
Right.
So it has just come down to completing syllabus and scoring marks, right? And then you really don't have the space to acquire knowledge.
Right.
And I think the fundamentals of education, where you have to acquire knowledge, that I think somewhere is kind of missing. And
Right.
you look at all the nice documents, policy documents on national curriculum framework. All of these have such beautiful sentences written just on this, right? How do you acquire knowledge, right?
Right.
And I think it is more of teachers wanting to unlearn what they have learned, right? Because for them it is chalk and talk. So I have the chalk, I have the I am going to do the talking, and since I have the knowledge, I'm going to just impart it on to all of you, right, children? So I think this whole transmission of knowledge, I think, has to go away, and then let children form their own knowledge.
Correct.
Which is the essence of NCF 2005 and even the NEP 2020.
Right.
I think that is where I think we have to get to. Otherwise, we are going to end up with a mediocre society, which actually is just running behind marks or things like that, right?
Right. I
Yeah.
think when we talk about education, what we don't realize is that education in our country is actually a luxury. I mean, it's supposed to be a necessity, and it should be accessible to everybody. But the
Yeah.
truth is that it is a luxury. Only a certain sector of people can afford it. For the rest of them, it's a challenge, right? So I want to ask this question in twofold, and I assume this will be a little long answer. But I want to understand what were the challenges of education before the pandemic, per se, and then of course in the pandemic, everything has gone digital, and there have been n number of challenges. If you could first address what were the challenges before the pandemic outbreak.
Yeah. So if you look at education, right? I mean, there was something called universalization of education, where enrollment was a big deal, right?
Right.
And I think to a large extent we have achieved that.
Right.
If you look at ASER reports, it is more than 98%, where the enrollment is there, and people, I mean, children are actually turning up at school. Of
Right.
course, it could be because of midday meal and all these other, nice things that the children like, and maybe parents are not able to really look after them at home, and they are just glad that children are just going to the school, right?
Right.
But the real challenge, I think pre and pandemic was that the I think the essence of how this is actually imparted, right? Even if there was a school that is every 1 kilometer, and children could just walk into the, but I think the quality that is being delivered in those schools, I think, was a huge question. Even today it remains the same, right? But what has happened is, I think the learning outcome, or the quality of education which focuses on learning outcome, was less, and then there was more focus on, is the infrastructure there, is the toilet there, this was actually more looked at during the pre pandemic era, right? And with all of this, the essence of what is it, is the children, is the child actually able to do a simple division, is completely forgotten, right? Again, because you are running behind the syllabus and things like that, right? So this has been the pre pandemic challenge, right? And which is it does not matter how many NGOs are there on the ground to augment what the government is doing. And of course, I think only after I got into the NGO space, I realized the scale at which government operates, right? And I mean, really a big kudos to the teachers who actually travel 5 kilometers sometimes on foot, and go to the school, and then because that is just, I think, pure passion, right? But then the percentage of teachers with passion is actually just very low, right? Because teaching as a job has just been that, okay, I'm just getting paid, and I'm not going to really look at improving learning outcome per se, right?
Correct.
And that, I think, that is a problem. I think we'll have to deal with that. I hope NEP 2020 addresses it in some way, because the structure of how education is actually done is changing. But if you look at the post the pandemic state, right? So there has been so much of push for digital, everything digital, but then the challenge is that only 25% of India is actually on a smartphone, or digitally they are able to do anything on a device, right? So you are still left with 75% Indians not really having access. The digital divide is really huge. Right. Even if you have digital, divide is bridge, but you have to look at is the power supply there, is the data connectivity. There are so many things that are actually coming with digital content, right? So I think the pandemic era, the issue was there was not enough digital content in the first place, right? And even if there was, the consumption of that was an issue. Even if consumption was there, then a telemetry to figure out can I get a report to say who saw what, right? Is also another challenge, right? So of course, I think we are dealing with that, and I think whatever we see, children being asked to attend online classes, I think it's just becoming a torture, because I think the way in which the education is imparted, they're still doing the chalk and talk method. It's just that it is now on a screen rather than in a classroom. So
Right.
it has not really changed. But yeah, we have to look at what we can make out of this situation.
Right.
And our Akshara's effort has been more towards creating this digital content.
Right.
And since we know that reaching this digital content to children is a challenge, uh, because I have been in so many meetings with the government officials, where we say that, hey, state-run television channels will just put these lesson plan and children can just view it at home. But then who has the remote at home, right? So does the child get to really watch these, and is there power during the
Right.
is there electricity during the transmission and all that,
Right.
right? So I mean, there are so many challenges to just do this at scale and reach almost every nook and corner of the country.
Right.
So our effort has been mostly geared towards building capacity among teachers, right? How? Because we know for sure teachers have access to the smart devices, right?
Right.
Most of them now, because we are seeing challenges with the 20, 30 years experienced teachers because they are not ready to switch to Android or or other smartphones.
Right.
But the young teachers definitely have access to it. So can I create enough training material digitally available to the teacher?
Right.
That is what we focused during the pandemic.
Right.
And we
I
have
think.
created a large set of videos for teachers to actually consume,
Correct.
at least for the state of Karnataka.
Right. I think what you're saying highlights the different stakeholders that are there when it comes to education, right? So there is the student population which is trying to access the knowledge. Then there's the teacher population which is trying to make sure that students get this knowledge, right? And then
Yeah.
of course there's the parent population which is trying to see how to make the best of this whole situation, while of course they're also tackling their own issues and
Yes.
work from home situations and things like that.
Yes.
So when we talk about this, I think definitely, like you said, there are challenges at the student level, there are challenges at the teacher level. But primarily, would you agree that this has enabled a larger divide between the urban and the rural space, because the rural space does not have as many digital devices or access to education? For example, let's say a small family in the rural sector, they might have just one digital device or two digital devices. And they might be a family of 3 4 where the elder people go to work and they need that device to say access the Arogya Setu app. But then the same
Yeah.
kids also need the same device to access education. So would you agree with the gap having divided, or do you think it's one step closer towards enabling digital India per se?
So I think, see, Digital India, that campaign actually has started with financially, how do I do all these QR code enabled payment and all that. I mean, to an extent, I think
Correct.
even the rural India has actually caught on to that
Right.
fad, right? But I think the issue that you have raised, that a family has only one device, and then you're just vying for that just one device, and
Correct.
and the child actually ends up waiting all the way till 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. when the parent comes back, right?
Right.
And it is true, whether it is urban or rural, right? And rural, I
Right.
think it's even worse, because the parents have no energy left to figure out what did you learn in your classroom today and all that,
Right.
right? And they may even say that I don't have enough memory on my phone for you to download all these games or whatever you want to see, right?
Right.
Because we have seen that we have a building blocks one app, and it's a free download. But if you see, the parents are more worried about the space in the phone for their WhatsApp message versus the
Right.
child wanting to learn something, right?
Right.
So the definitely the digital divide has really kind of come in the open, right? Like, we see that very much. And then the haves and the have nots, and all the city, if you look at all the maids wanting to go back home, give the phone to their kids so that they can study.
Correct.
So there is a lot of this adjustment to just that one device that actually is getting shared, right?
Right.
But I think the bigger problem is that I don't think there is anyone to handhold the children in rural India, right?
Right.
Which is
Right.
as much available in an urban setup. We
Right.
don't have that kind of scope for children to kind of get some input from their parents or
Right.
uncles or so.
Ag-
I think that has really kind of snatched away all the opportunities that the children in the rural India have, right? So it has kind of robbed their opportunity to learn. And we have seen
Right.
this when you go with a device and then you sit with them in a remote village, let us say in Bagalkot or Bijapur, and sometimes we are just wonderstruck as to how these children are actually having their own thought process. They're able to understand the functioning of the device so quickly, even though they have actually seen this device for the first time in their life, for
Right.
a tab, for instance.
Right.
And it's really amazing to see that they are at the same caliber as any city international school going child, actually,
Right.
at the end
Right.
of the day, right? It's
Right.
just the exposure is not there, right? So I think we are really a long step away from getting there, to bridge this digital divide.
Right.
Yeah, and but also I think the digital divide, even if we bridge, we will actually end up not having this concrete object. Do I touch and feel, and experiential learning per se would actually go away if you end up only depending on a digital device. So that is also that is, I think, very key uh, for me, at least, in a from a math pedagogy perspective, right? So concrete objects are a must to understand the concept of any concept in math.
Right. Right.
So
Yes, I think that that's a lot of issues that you did raise. And to the contrary, I would just like to point out, I think it's also heartening to see that there have been a lot of kids who have taken the forefront and, handheld their teachers to understand technology and how they can,
yes.
go around and, make the best of it. So that is, of course, the other side of it, and that's also heartwarming to see. And I think, like you said, we have to commend the children for that as well. So it goes both ways, like you're saying. There have been challenges, there have been I mean, it has been a very 50-50 kind of a situation, in our opinions, right?
But it has also highlighted that
Right,
how we have to adapt to a changing situation, right?
right.
Like teachers have to adapt to these new technical,
Technology,
the
right,
technical know-how of how to operate a Zoom or a Google Meet. See, all of this has actually in a nice way, it has forced the teacher to take the digital route, right?
right,
Otherwise, I don't think they would have ever imagined this being one of the choice of
right,
teaching.
right. Uh, I think the next question, a little more grave one that I would like to bring at this point of time is, definitely during this time, education has taken a big toll, and it has made us revisit a lot of things in education as well. Do you think this is an opportunity that we can use to revisit our system, our structure, and the way we impart education? Perhaps you could give us example of math, because that's your domain.
Yeah. So I'm very glad that this pandemic situation and the introduction of NEP 2020, all of this has kind of
Right,
in a way, nice coincidence, I would say.
right,
And I think this is the time we need to fix education in a larger sense. If you look at Asar report since 2005, it actually, the needle hasn't moved anywhere, right? You take just one simple example of children in grade 5 able to do division of grade 2 level, right? And that has just been hovering in the 19 to 25 or 22% all over India, and it includes both public and private schools.
right,
And that is a shame, right? Like it's more than 10 years or 15 years, and we haven't really achieved. So I think that challenge is what I think we need to overcome.
right,
And I think from a how do I actually gear towards this is, uh, can I actually start focusing on conceptual clarity first, and then the
right.
procedural fluency? right?
Right.
Because if you see teachers when they say, okay, let's learn division, the first thing is, okay, you should know how, the tables, right? So they are not telling division, teaching things. The concept is not at all taught, right? So you're just getting into the how part of it without understanding, what and why.
Correct.
I think that needs to change, and this is a time where we need to actually relook at how we are actually covering our lesson plan. How are teachers being monitored, right? So if you look at education, from a government standpoint, those who are not performing are punished,
Right.
rather than those who are performing are rewarded, right? In the sense,
Right.
we are not, I think we have to let the performing teachers, performance go viral, so that, it gets, it should be infectious, so that others actually catch on to that.
Right.
Than, seeing, oh, okay, so, if I not do this, I'm going to get a punishment like that. So then, teachers will just look at finding ways of
Going
circumventing
around.
the,
Right.
the entire thing, right? So I think that, is a very, very important thing that we should look at, from a systemic change perspective.
Right.
The other thing is, I think the world is changing fast, right? If you look at how, from, the television to a Netflix era, it just happened so quickly. And I think we are going to see the same in the education space as well, right? What I learn today is not really relevant after 10 years.
Right.
So the teachers have to innovate and, improve themselves year on year. So I think some kind of a, certification that is valid for teachers, or, they have to renew something, right? To say, that I'm still a teacher who can teach math, right?
Right.
I think is something that, we need to think, I'm just looking at an innovative way of, how can I really bring this
Definitely.
concrete
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
right? Of course, some of the other things, multidisciplinary learning and this 5+3+3+4, all these are, beautiful changes, that are there in NEP. So
Right.
I think the change, has in a way slowly started,
Right.
but I think it all depends on how states, implement
Execute.
this. Yeah.
Right. Right. I think the one point that you did bring up, as much as how students need to kind of unlearn and learn things, I think, yeah, teachers also need to stay updated and unlearn and learn new things, and, keep tab of the way things are happening, so that
Yeah.
they're a little more relevant with the times, the world, and things like that, like you very rightly pointed out.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. From there, I think let's move on to the Ganita Kalika Andolana, which is part of Akshara's project, which you head. Could you talk to us a little bit about this project? Actually, before that, if you could tell us why math, because I'm sure a lot of people out there must be like, why
Yeah.
math? Do you like math? And then, of course, a little bit about the project.
Yeah. So see, if you look at any other subjects, right? So I think math and science are the only two subjects that are, politically correct, right? All other things could have some influence, of the
Right,
government. And the principles of math and science actually are universally the same, right?
right,
So 2+2 is 4 in Singapore and, US and India as well, right? So that I think was one of the reason, right? It is the math pedagogy is universally accepted, and then it does not matter what stream, what area that you want to expertise. Math
right,
is a must, right?
right,
Numeracy is a must,
right,
and unfortunately, if you look at whether it is India or internationally, anywhere you go, uh, you talk to any adult as well, right? So they will say, you know what, I'm not good at math,
right,
right? and
right,
and so when I say that, I am really not ashamed, right? I mean, I say it as a, just as a casual conversation,
right,
but I never say I cannot read, right? Or I
right,
cannot, so literacy is taken very seriously, but
right,
numeracy is, it's okay, so if you look at it, that is the mindset. So which means why do I actually not see children performing in math? Then they will say, oh, maybe you are not, a math genius, or you're not really meant to, learn math, right?
Right.
Or you should go, even in the olden days, only a boy can, do math well, and that
Right.
was also there, right? And the gender
Right.
bias and all that.
Right.
So math for us was, something that, you have to know this in your life. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of hardship, whether it is the interest on the loan that you are not able to calculate, and, so many things, right? Percentage, all that ratio. So some of these very fundamental numerical, ideas, if you put in your head, then, and also we felt, see, math is not just arithmetic, right?
Right.
And that is another, narrow focused way, teachers, adults look at. And math means, just number operations.
Right.
But it has patterns, symmetry, shapes, measurement. I mean, you have so many other beautiful concepts, part of math, right?
Right.
So we felt math is, it just encompasses the entire life, right?
Right.
You just need it all through.
Right.
So that's how, we zeroed in on math.
Right.
And it was easy to convince any state government, and then we were looking very much for something to do at scale, right? And the GKA, the Ganita Kalika Andolana, it's named as Andolana because, we need a movement to, bring this, 19%, children in all over India understanding division, right? So that percentage at least has to go to 50% in the next 5 years or so.
Right.
So if you have to do that, it has to be a movement, and to be a movement, it has to be at scale, right? I cannot just try this out with 100 schools and 200 schools. Of course, we started with a pilot in 3 taluks, 2 which is, having the lowest human development index, and then 1 which is having a medium human index. We started with 3 taluks, 570 schools. We did this was pilot, and then the report or the outcome of this program in the 5 years was, really, outstanding. I mean, the state government liked, and we measured how kids actually performed year on year. Right. And then the state, Karnataka state government said, yes, let's do this, start in the entire state from 2016-17.
Right.
That is when, we started in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region, the 6 districts of the Basava Kalyana, or the region that is in the North Karnataka. So we started with around 7,500 schools. The beauty of this program is that it actually has a framework, or a model where you do this at scale only if there is a government buy-in, which means the government has to put in the money on the table to say, hey, we are going to invest on the math kit, we are going to do whatever is needed, right? Teacher training. So all that money is borne by the state, right? And Akshara will bear all the money for all the field coordinators on the ground, things like that. Sure. So that's the first part, right? The second part is, pedagogically it should be sound, right? Which means if I do this once in one state, it just should be replicable in all other states, right? So pedagogy was a key component for us, and we just went with the tenets of NCF 2005. And we didn't really say that here is a proprietary way of teaching, right? So it's there as a universal pedagogy principle on foundational numeracy. You stick to that, and then you just go with that, right? You're not going to say, I'm going to bring some new method of teaching or anything like that. Right. And then the part was, capacity building, right? This was a component where, all teachers are, trained by us in a cascading level.
Right.
And then the monitoring part where, the state government will own this as their own program, and they will monitor it. And we built all the necessary tools, an Android app that you can go to the school, check, and feed in, feed in the data, and then that was a very simple thing that we did, and the government officials are using it.
Right.
And the last two parts were, how do I actually check the learning outcome? So assessment, right? Digital assessment on the tab. How do I actually carry that out? Finally, the biggest piece was, how do I engage community? Right? Community is the strongest, the stakeholder, or the most important stakeholder in this. Teacher, children, all of that is there. But then, if the community, then all this will fall flat. So what we were looking at is, everything is on the supply side, right? I will train you, I will do this. It's all giving. I'm supplying. Is there a demand? Really? Community. That is why we wanted to involve community, and we did that at a right. So the GKA program had one component, which is the Gram Panchayat level math contest. So this is the part which actually enabled the community participation, which actually now you have the Gram Panchayat presidents, Gram Panchayat members, the school development monitoring, that SDMC members who are basically the parents, the Panchayat development officer. So all of these are now part of this, right? So a GP, or a Gram Panchayat math contest, is a contest conducted by the community, financed by the community, by started, and the Gram Panchayat contests were held, right, in all of Karnataka, at least in the 12 districts where we started the program. Right now, it's all in all the 32 districts of Karnataka. But then, the best part was the community finally realized what is the learning level of their children. Right? In each GP contest, we actually tell, out of the 250 students who participated, because one GP is 7 to 10 villages, right? So all children actually come to one place and do this test. And if you tell them, hey, out of this, grade 6 students were 42, and out of the 42, 26 got 0. Who is responsible for their 5 years of coming to school every day? What will we do with that 5 years? Is it all gone waste? And that is when the GP president, the PDO, all of them, it's a awakening call, right? So the teachers are looking at each other saying, okay, whom should I blame? HM is also getting nervous. Education officials are there. But all of this, kind of a friction, ends up with a small dialogue, and they'll say, okay, I think we should fix our system. So this is the demand side that, we wanted to see the change, right? How much ever you supply, and say, we don't want to actually be on the ground for 1-2 years and then, say, hey, we are done, our MOU is done, and, we are going back, right? So we wanted to put a small system or in a place like this GP contest, which the community actually, embraced, and they said, okay, we want this to happen every now and then. So the Andolan has really now become a movement. And Gram Panchayat after Gram Panchayat, they call us and say, okay, when are we going to do the next? But this pandemic has now put a break on all these, gatherings. But yes, so GKA's main motto was Adi Kali, Madi Tili, right? Which is play and, learn and do and understand. Right. And it's all, you learn by doing, right? So there are these kits that you use and to teach fraction and things like that. So so children actually feel whatever is there in their hand, and they're able to say 1/7 is greater, or 1/2 is greater. So now they can actually see it, and so learning by doing. There is a concept called CRA, concrete, representation, and abstract, right? So from how do you go from known to unknown.
Correct.
And we do that as part of this GKA program. So
Right.
all in all, yes, it has kind of had a good impact. And there are few teachers who have really embraced it. They have become an ambassador of the program.
Right.
But of course, I think there's a lot of ground to cover to make everyone,
Right.
accept this.
Right. I think what is really coming through when you're talking is that when you want something like this to stand out, or if you want, say, for example, numeracy to reach everybody, then it's not just one single person or one single organization that has to work. It's almost like a bunch of people that need to come together and work like a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And it's really inspiring to see that, the work you're doing is reaching people and it's helping people as well. And just a thought when you were speaking that came to me was it's ironic, right? A country that gave zero to the world is fighting to make sure that numeracy reaches its own roots.
Yes.
Whereas literacy, like you said, is a little more popular per se. Perhaps it goes back to our roots with the English ties, maybe. I'm just thinking out loud. Anyway, you did bring up the tenets. If you would like to talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Just highlight one or two, perhaps.
Yeah, I think I missed the question. There was a pause in the video.
Sorry, what I was saying, let me repeat myself. What I was asking is that if you would like, because you did mention the tenets, if you would like to talk about the education tenets a little bit, a few of them maybe, what you think are the highlights or important ones?
Yeah. See, I think one of the main thing that is difficult for some of the old style teachers are teacher has to be a facilitator, right? Can I facilitate learning? I think that is the most difficult part for the teacher to learn, right? Because teacher always feels that is, I think, one of the most important tenets, right?
Right.
And when it comes to numeracy, I mean, why children find it so difficult to understand math?
Right.
Because math is abstract, and unfortunately, the teacher has learned it the abstract way.
Right.
And when teacher thinks that, hey, I just have to repeat this 10 times, and then finally it will go into the head, of this child, right? So teacher is only trying to force this abstract, knowledge that he or she has into the child's head, right? Which I think is not going to work. And also there is so much of this, eagerness to get the right answer from the child. They're just prodding with, so there is nothing to really let the child make mistakes. These are all, beautiful things that, even though I'm not a teacher by profession, with all the IT background I have, but when I started, working on this, I really loved the, these tenets. And if you read NCF or even the national position paper on mathematics, beautifully written. NEP also talks a lot about how experiential learning is so important, right? And it is very true. And it does not matter whether, I'm doing this for math or science, it's just true for every single subject, right? I think that is the basis on which, teachers have to unlearn and, look at this in a new light or a new way.
Right. Unfortunately, we're almost winding up. But before we do, I have one question to ask you, which is, what do you think the future looks like? Or what do you think the future should look like?
Yeah. So I think, with NEP saying that, you can just do anything multidisciplinary, I think that is the best thing. I think that is how it's going to be. When I did my, engineering, I was so fascinated in history and, other things, which I thought I can never get to that. But now, children have that. And I think that is going to redefine, education, that, that I'm actually purely going for knowledge, and I'm not getting into this rut of 10 plus 12, and, I have to have this JEE, I have to crack that another, important exam.
Right.
I think is the key to the future. And if that happens, I think we are going to have so kind language to use what I have learned in so many other ways, right? Than getting tied to that I'm a mechanical engineer and that's it, right? I'm not able to do anything else. So and plus I think the technology is going to play a major role, and I hope it is for the better, right? With all this video games and all that, we don't want to associate technology to that, rather than look at harnessing knowledge or get knowledge out of that. So and I see all this augmented reality and so many things are actually happening in the education space. I feel that's going to redefine how we are going to learn some of the aspects of science or math in a much more fun way. So yeah, and I think a gamified version of learning, and also I think is a new way. We feel that also is going to help children become a little competitive.
Right. I think that beautifully does sum up the entire conversation that we have had. Let me just check if we have any questions. Before that, any closing remarks?
No, I mean, it's nice I got this opportunity to talk about what we have been doing so far. And I'm happy to take any.
We do have any questions. Thing I asked everybody is, we are part of testing times, and we don't know what lies ahead. How are you managing to stay optimistic and positive?
Yeah, I think the positive outlook to life has always been my way of living. So whether it is pandemic or not, and I think I'm involved in doing multiple things, learning, listening to music, and I think I'm just keeping myself sane. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm not watching the news, and I think that has really kept me sane. So yeah,
I think that's good advice. On that note, thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time and letting us understand what goes into education and what have been the challenges and what we could perhaps look at in the future and hopefully better times ahead. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. This is our series, Dialogues That Matter, an initiative where we talk to different change makers, and we have a bunch of interesting people coming up today. So coming up in the future. So do tune in. Thank you so much. Until then, stay safe and stay positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.